So in this video, I'm going to talk about gaming your also bots. That sounds a little sneaky or sinister. It's really not that big a deal. What I mean is just most authors don't really pay attention to their also bots. So the biggest mistake they make is telling all their friends and family to go buy their book. And then Amazon has no idea where to put your book because you get all these random people with different purchasing habits. And they'll try to see what those people have in common. And Amazon will try to show your book to more people who like those kinds of books that those people are buying, which isn't going to work. What you need to do is get very specific with who you're targeting and who actually buys your book so that the people who buy your book also they have a purchasing history of buying similar books to yours, lots of books and hopefully best-selling books. So you want people who spend a lot of money on books. You want people who are big readers of your target demographic or genre or topic, because when you get those people to buy your book on Amazon, that will populate your also bots, it's the same for iBooks or Kobo or somewhere else. The theory kind of holds true universally, but under your book, it will show you customers who bought this book also bought this other book. That's your also bots. You don't want a bunch of random mixed up books there because readers will get really confused. You want all of those books to be pretty targeted as bestsellers in your genre. And you can do that deliberately. So you don't have to just wait and hope that your book marketing is on target. You need to decide, first of all, which books you want to be next to. Like, who do you want to be rubbing shoulders with? Pick your top 10. I would probably shoot not for like Stephen King, because there's so many people who are buying those books. Like, fans of a genre may not buy every book, but hardcore fans of a genre may buy the top 20 books that are best-selling in the category. Maybe every month they'll check the best-selling top 20 books in the category and they'll try something new. Whereas you could get tons of people who don't actually like thrillers who buy Stephen King because he's so famous and they were interested in some book. So if something gets too big, like Twilight or Harry Potter, Stephen King, or for example, the Stephen King new movie is coming out, It is being redone. So a lot of people who may not actually be readers of Stephen King may be buying the book It because the movie is coming out, which means those also bots are going to get watered down by a bunch of people who aren't really hardcore fans of the genre. So what I would do, actually, look at the categories that you want to be in, look at the top 20 of those categories, try to decide which ones are traditionally published and which ones are self-published. That makes a little bit of difference because the traditionally published ones usually cost like $9.99, so there's going to be less purchases. And traditionally published authors are probably going to be less, depending on how big they are, they're probably going to be a little less accessible if you want to do some cross-promotion or something. So I would probably do half and half. Also look out for books that are long-time best-selling. Because if you just like look at the top 20 on Amazon, there's always going to be 10 that are there because they're doing big promotions right now. But if you check back next week, those 10 will be gone. So you want to find the books that are consistently selling over a long period of time that are still going to be there. Because what you want to do is get the books that are going to stick, the books that are really going to show up and be visible for lots of people. You want your book to be right under those books all the time. So that's what I mean by gaming your also bots. You want to do that deliberately. So you have to find the books first. Like I said, I would try to find 10 books by pretty major best-selling authors that are a mix of indie authors with a big platform who do a lot of promotion and traditionally published authors who are kind of famous. So like they have a lot of name recognition value, but they may not actually have a big platform. A lot of big name brand authors who are traditionally published usually don't build their own platform because they don't really need to rely on their own list or their website or whatever, but they can still be really impactful with name recognition, and their books are going to get a lot of play, so you do want your book to show up under theirs. Some of the ways I do it, I'm going to put a big list down below in my course, Guerrilla Publishing, but this video I might make public, so these are just some of the comments that I'm going to share with everybody. Some of the ways that I do this, I've talked about a lot, are doing book giveaways or promotions. I put a lot of content on my site, so I will say, once I have my list of 10, I'll say, like, here are the top 10 books that I recommend in this genre. A way to get that up to a next level is to find the top 10 best-selling books of the month that you plan to launch. So you can look at other, generally traditionally published authors, big publishers will put out the pre-order dates, but you can also just look on Amazon, look on your categories. You're probably going to find 10 that aren't out yet, but are already selling really well because they're on pre-order. So the advantage is when you start promoting those books, and the secret of like hacking your also bots is just focusing less on you and focusing more on building a platform based around specific readership who likes those books, and then recommending those books to that audience, because they have probably already bought a lot of those books that are bestsellers, and they will be more likely to buy new books that are also bestsellers. If you can get them on your list by recommending those other books and then recommend your book so they buy your book as well, you're going to get a lot of cross-pollination or cross-purchasing happening where they're buying those books and your books. You can do targeted advertising, so you can target, for example, my book is like Fallen and Percy Jackson, so I can target people who like Fallen and people who like Percy Jackson on Amazon. They've probably already bought those books. Then I can specify my ad copy to appeal to those readers. So I can say, like, did you like Percy Jackson? Here's your next favorite young adult book based on or young adult adventure based on Greek mythology, or something that appeals specifically to the people you're targeting who probably already bought the books that you're targeting. But then once you get them, like, you can do advertising to sell your book. That's fine. I would probably rather do advertising, at least on Facebook. I would do advertising for a giveaway. So I would say, win this package of 10 young adult mythology books, and I would give away 10 books. And I would target readers who like those authors or those books or the genre, so they're more likely to sign up. Then I can get a big list, and I can send them to my page that I've built that says, here are the top 10 young adult mythology books, and try to get those people to buy some of those books that I'm recommending. And of course, when I do my hard launch, get some of those people to buy my books also. You can also use Amazon ads to get very specific with your targeting. So more recently, and I started saying, and I think I got distracted, but I started saying you can publish just something like, here are the top 10 Greek mythology books being launched in June 2017 when your book is launching, because a lot of those books, when they launch, most of the sales are going to happen in the same month. So if I can launch in the same month or even on the same day as another major book in my genre by a best-selling author, that can really help also bots, because when I do my promotion, I'll probably get most of my sales on the same day when I do my launch. And if I launch on the same day as somebody else, that's going to be true for them as well. So we might both get 1,000 sales or so on the same day, which should make our also bots really sticky. But you can also do that deliberately with Amazon ads. So for example, if I find 5 or 10 books that I really want, like this is where I want my book to show up underneath, I can do, you can do keywords if you want, product placed ads with keywords, but you can also do product display ads so that I can choose exactly which products my book shows up next to or underneath. And these take a while to get going, so I would actually start these like a month before launch if you have your book up on pre-order. Otherwise, just know sponsored display ads take off faster. So you could start spending $20 or $30 a day and see results pretty quickly. With product display ads, it might take like 4 weeks to spend your budget. Even if I put up a budget of like $100, and it takes quite a while for that to get spent, especially if you're only choosing like 5 or 10 ads. It's not going to be a lot of, I'll add a thought to that for a minute. If you only choose 5 or 10 other books where your book is showing up next to, you're not going to get lots of clicks, because that's only 5 or 10 books. It's not going to give you that much visibility. You're not going to get that many clicks. So it may not help your also bot situation so much. However, it's still really good branding and packaging to have your book always showing up next to those books. So if I pick like 10 best-selling books that are coming out the same month that my book is coming out, and I advertise so my book is showing up to those books, all of the people who are checking out those books, whether or not they buy that book or whether or not they buy my book, they'll still probably see my book. So maybe they buy, 7 of those other books and they see my ad on the sidebar showing up over and over again. They're probably not going to click it the first 7 times or so, but maybe sometime later, some of my other marketing material gets in front of them, or maybe the 8th or 9th time they see my ad, they finally click on it because they've been noticing my cover everywhere. They've been like, oh, I've seen this ad before. This ad seems familiar to me somehow. Why am I seeing this on all the other books I like? That's a good way to get visibility. So even though you're not paying necessarily because you're paying for the clicks and not for the visibility, so even if you get tons of impressions, those impressions are really valuable even if you're not getting the direct sales. They could still be paying off in unforeseen ways that are still valuable for you. So those are many of the ways that I try to focus on increasing my also bots. I put out a lot of content, so it's not just for one book launch. I put out 2 or 3 posts a month that are like top 20 books in this genre, and those are usually like one of those or one of my books. So when I have content like that, the other thing I haven't really talked about very much, more long-term stuff, if I have top 20 young adult time travel books and I feature 20 other authors, I can then share it on Twitter. I can tag those authors and say, hey, I just featured you because you are one of my favorite time travel books. Those authors are likely to, if you tag them on Twitter, they're likely to retweet it. Even if they don't retweet it, their audience can probably see it because you tag them. I've had less luck if I email them directly and say, hey, I just featured you. I usually have less luck getting a response from that, but I have more luck if I just go on Facebook, especially if you wait. Like if they, on Facebook, if you follow an author on Facebook and they say something like, I'm launching my book this month, and a lot of comments are saying congratulations, that's when you could post your article and say, congratulations, I just featured you on my blog here. It's a little rude to just post it on their page, and it's a little weird to just try to add them as a friend and private message them. That still can work, but a lot of times I don't see the private messages anyway. But if you can wait for a related post where they're talking about the book you featured, and then you post a comment saying, here's a link to the post where I featured your book, they'll see it at least. That's a good way to get on their radar so they know that you're doing things to promote your book. That's great. They may not even know you're an author, but they may still share that article. They may be thankful that you've featured them. They may take that post and share it on Twitter or Facebook, especially if you post it and you tag them on Twitter and you also do that with a comment on Facebook. You're going to show up twice. They're going to be more likely to, if you send a friend request or if you follow them on Twitter, they're more likely to follow you back. And they may start paying attention to your content. So they may not realize you're also an author and you also have a book. That's fine. But if you can get them to share your content, or even if you can just get them to have a good impression of you as a person because you're trying to help them market their books, that still has a lot of brand value. And even if you don't get a direct response from them, you'll still get all of their followers seeing your content and going to your post, which is good free traffic for you also. So you have to be kind of careful not to be spammy, but done well, all you're doing is supporting another author, which is good for them. It's really good for everybody. Most authors are going to be grateful. And a final point, the other reason this works well, especially the way that I do it, is that I've set up my blogs not to be author-centric blogs. So I don't have a site that's Derek Murphy fiction or anything like that. I have Urban Epics, which is a brand site about young adult sci-fi and fantasy. That's my main fiction site. I also have a joint author blog that's the YA Shelf, which is a young adult site where lots of authors can post content on. Those are my 2 main fiction brand platforms. When I post content there and I send authors and I say, hey, we just featured you, it looks a little suspicious. Like if it was just Derek Murphy fiction and I featured them, it doesn't look as cool. They're less likely to share it because they know by sharing it, it's a little too transparent that I'm just an author trying to get my stuff promoted. That's what it kind of seems like if I just put it on my author brand website. So if you have a brand neutral site that seems like it's more about the genre, or even a Facebook page, like my Facebook page is Urban Epics, it's not Derek Murphy fiction, it's more likely that you're going to get more followers and more shares and more promotion on the content that you post if it seems like a brand neutral site and it's not just like when they promote it, they don't just want to be promoting one author because they may feel weird about just sending traffic or recommending some strange author if they haven't read the books, and they don't want to get their brand mixed up recommending someone or promoting someone, and they don't know if like those books are any good or not. So you don't really want to be asking or putting them in a position where it seems like you're asking them to promote you as an author, because that can make them feel a bit weird. So anyway, those are some of the things that I do to make sure my also bots stay really strong, which is the best way to get long-term visibility for sales.